Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do is just briefly direct you to that Faculty Resource Center page that I talked about in the larger session. So this is available to you. It should be in your list of courses now in Panther Learn. I recommend I do this with all of our training courses. You can just go up here and just pin the class so that you can always access it, right? You just go to any of your courses and just click on this little pin and that'll hold it at the top of your list, all right? Now, if you go to content, you'll find a couple of resources here. First, this I think will be what will be most helpful on a regular basis. Just quick links. If you need to file attendance, go to My ODU. There's a link. If you need to submit a retention alert, go to ODU Online. If you need to schedule a makeup session, contact the registrar. If you need to post final grades, go to ODU Online. And those are just links right there available to you. It also has some instructions on printing on campus and how to just navigate our systems, okay? There are also some facts about Ohio Dominican, our mission, resources for adjuncts. We've got that little booklet that you were given when you first started that no one has anymore. So now it's available electronically, right? I know I lost mine, okay? The university catalog, the faculty handbook, resources so that you know how to do everything that you need to do on campus. There's Panther Learn support, which I want to highlight for a second, this Panther Learn Help Center. So this is a page in Panther Learn that you're all already in, and it documents the entire system. So often if somebody happens to ask me a question, I'll just go to that page and find the answer and say, try it yourself. If you still have questions, call Amy or Shella, right, who are our specialists in Panther Learn. Or you can just email pantherlearn@ohiodominican.edu. That'll get a quick response too. Then we have the training courses that are available. Email me if you need to know what training you need to take for your next course, if you haven't completed that. And then there's also information about Panther Learn and the help desk if you have technical questions. Okay. And then we've just got information about the faculty development workshop. So everything from today, these videos, the presentation before, all of the information from all of your group sessions will be posted here so that you can review it later, right? Any of the handouts you receive will be up there, okay? We've also got at least 2 million articles, not really, on best practices and teaching tips and best practices for online teaching if you're interested in that. You want to do a little research. We've got video tutorials. I'm hoping that this section grows in the future. We want to have a whole video about quizzes, right? What do all those little settings mean? Here, let me give you a video that goes through it, okay? We've got forms. This is where I start to get a little cheeky on here. You need a grade change form, or you've got an issue of plagiarism, unfortunately. Course observation forms, wrap-up forms if you lost that email and you still want to submit something, right? This section will grow. We've got a section to collaborate. So right now, these are just discussion boards, but if you're teaching an accounting course and you've never taught that course before and you want to get feedback from somebody else who's taught that course, post a discussion, and I'll kind of monitor this, and I'll maybe send out an email and say, so-and-so has a question on the discussion board. Can anybody chime in, right? This is kind of clunky right now. I hope to get some better technology as we transition this to maybe a website outside of Panther Learn, but we're just trying to get that content in there. So it's a place to collaborate. We have, are you singing the song in your head? Can you help it to sing the song in your head? Those checklists, right? So you've got the face-to-face Panther Learn checklist in your folder. That's always going to be available here in the Faculty Resource Center as well. We've got a checklist for the online classes just to make sure you get those classes ready to go. We have samples. They're samples of a welcome email. We've got a sample of a backward design syllabus template. If you want to know whether your syllabus has the most up-to-date version of the disability statement, this one does. Okay? So that should be a good resource for you to make sure that your syllabus is still up to date. We have some more detailed instructions for some of the things in the quick references. We have a poll if you have an idea for what you'd like our spring development workshop to be. Complete this survey when you get a chance. And then we have updates that say they're going to be monthly, but I haven't done it since August. I'm trying my best. Okay, so I just wanted to direct you towards that briefly, and then we'll get started with today's actual presentation. So, how to prepare students for an accelerated course. This becomes more crucial now that we're in this new term-based model, okay? So the first question is, what is an accelerated course, right? What do we mean by that? How are we using that term, accelerated course? Well, LEAD will be gone as of fall 2018. Our last cohort is graduating November of 2018. The future will just be ODU courses in different formats. The traditional format is 15 weeks face-to-face. That's our traditional, you meet Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday, right? And that's the humdrum of ODU life for the most part. Accelerated courses are any courses shorter than that. Sounds obvious, but we're talking here about 6-week courses face-to-face, 8-week courses face-to-face, 8-week courses online, okay? But the content, the course objectives, and most importantly, the textbooks are gonna be the same. That's my goal. Every single person who takes Math 102, whether it's a 15-week face-to-face, an 8-week online, or an 8-week face-to-face, is gonna be using the same textbook. Hopefully, eventually. Okay, so when a student graduates from ODU, they're graduating from the same program. They've taken the same classes, just in different formats. That's the idea. There's not that distinction between LEAD and ODU anymore, right? So I want to just do a couple of comparisons that I think really makes this very clear, right? So we had the old 4-credit-hour program, which was LEAD. Right? Now we have the new 3-credit-hour program, which, some people call this adult, but it's kind of strange because 18-year-olds are technically adults. Are they adults? My 17-year-old, I don't know if she's an adult yet, but at 18, she'll be an adult. Or you might say non-traditional, right? We'd like this term accelerated because it really emphasizes the fact that they're all the same courses. These 4-credit-hour classes were cohorts. They moved together in a sequential program with all the same group of people. Now, it's term-based. The students sign up for whatever class they want to take, so long as they've had the prerequisites. They're not taking the courses in that same sequential order, and they can take any class they want to, whenever they want to, in whatever format they want to. The students love having that flexibility. You can know whether you're teaching a 4-credit-hour course by this L. So I'm using Philosophy 109 because I'm teaching that class starting on Tuesday, so it's just in my brain. But term-based, there's no L. That's how you know whether you're teaching a cohort class or a term-based class, okay? All of those 4-credit-hour cohort courses, or most of them, were 6-week face-to-face. But now we have all of these different formats. We have 6-week face-to-face, 8-week face-to-face, 8-week online, okay? So those are some differences. The biggest difference that you'll notice when it comes to preparation of students, in the 4-credit-hour classes, you had meet and greets. You had 30 minutes to go into the room and talk to them about what they needed to do to be prepared. We don't have that anymore. It's impossible to do on the term-based model. They're not all in the same room, much less the same group of people. So now we have welcome emails, right? And that's where the big emphasis on preparing students has to be placed, right? A couple of notable differences that you might find in the classroom. Yes, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
I know with the cohorts, they were basically moving along, everybody was together, the sequence of the courses.
Mm-hmm.
Just out of curiosity, with this term-based, is that one, can they prolong their graduation or their expected graduation? Because they may not be able to have the prerequisites to take a course which will require them to take it maybe 2 or 3 terms down the road, but just out of curiosity.
Well, so this would be really a question for our advising team, right? I mean, because they're sort of more on the student end, and they work with students to have a plan, and they try to have students go through a certain sort of order of the courses because that's what makes sense. But it's also really nice for the occasional student who has something that comes up and they had to drop a class and then they can take it later. So they have a plan, but it's not as completely structured in cement like the cohort program was. And students really like to have that flexibility.
I was only trying to see what was the
Yep.
benefits of going
Yep.
from the lead as we had, which was very, very structured, to now let's
Right.
develop your plan.
But they should be able to still graduate in the same amount of time,
Okay.
right? We've set up the terms so that they're accelerated. I mean, we still have A, B, C terms, 6 weeks each. So if they could follow a cohort schedule 6 weeks all the way through and potentially graduate.
Add on,
Sure.
technically, because we're not a big program yet,
Yes.
they have naturally stayed with the same people.
Yeah.
And they actually graduate faster because
Mhm.
of the flexibility of the program.
Yeah.
So it's been advantageous for the
Okay.
student.
For the
Thank you
students.
explanation.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes.
In addition to the welcome email, it seems like for online classes, we have a week ahead come before the actual class to do. Is that sort of part of the program? Is this something I've been asked to do, that I've been doing?
I'm not sure about your individual situation. One of the things, we've had some issues about when courses start and when they open, and we're from here on out, we're really trying to stick to that official ODU course schedule. So the courses, well, so we're not going to have any assignments due a week early. We can open up the Panther Learn page and they can be working towards things, but due dates are not going to be before the official date.
So like,
Start of
introduce
class.
yourself, read this, should not put that stuff in.
I'll have to take that on an individual basis. So we're getting to that with the online classes. Exactly what's going to most benefit students and what's going to keep us within that 8-week time frame. Yeah, so that's something that I would very much appreciate any feedback you have about what's working and what's not working so that we can see what procedures we can have in place across the board. Sure. Okay, so one thing that you'll notice that's different between the old cohort model and the new model is that for cohort, students took one course at a time because they were just going in order for the most part, right? But now students are taking 2 or possibly 3 classes at a time. Right? Now the 3-class situation is rare. It might happen when you're taking maybe 2 face-to-face classes, a class on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then you've got an online class, so there's like a 2-week overlap or something. So it may be a short period of time that they're taking more classes, but it's not uncommon for a student to be taking a face-to-face class and an online class at the same time. So that's something to know as an instructor. Your students may be having more to do than they did maybe in the cohorts. The cohorts move together, right? These students may not know each other as well, right? And so you might have to do a little bit more work to have them all introduce each other, right? And to introduce them to you and to get to know each other, right? Because they haven't been together for years potentially. The cohorts were, smaller. Some of the cohorts were, have you ever taught a 4-student class? Now that as they're winding down, they're kind of small because they're just, graduating. But, the cohorts may have been 11, 12, 15 students. Now we've had some classes that could even be 35 students, right? We try to keep it at 24 and under or so, but it depends on the class, right? So you're going to have more students potentially to manage. In the cohort classes, all of the students were non-traditional students. Right? But now some of our online classes have up to 50% traditional students in that class. So you've got a mix of our non-traditional adult students and the traditional students. I think I have 3 or 4 traditional students in my face-to-face philosophy class. Right? So traditional students don't have the same orientation experience and the same preparedness to know what an accelerated class is. But we still have to prepare them nonetheless. The last thing that I think is really important is that the 4 credit hour courses, this was owned, but it had that third-party lead. But now everything is ODU, right? We're giving a consistency of experience for all of our students. I think that's really important and really valuable, and it's going to end up being the real selling point for our program. Okay. All right. So how do we prepare students? in the absence of the cohort, in the absence of the meet and greets, with this additional complication of having traditional students. The two main ways are going to be the welcome email and Panther Learn, right? So let's talk a little bit first about the welcome email. So I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a brand new non-traditional student or a traditional student taking your first accelerated course. You've signed up for Dr. Mason's Philosophy 109 course. The class starts Tuesday, November 7th, and you've received what I've titled here, Welcome Email 1 in your inbox. So I want you to take a look at this briefly. Welcome Email 1. I'll kind of read it along with you. It starts, "Hi class, I'll be your instructor for this course, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. In order to make our first class go as smoothly as possible, I wanted to make you aware of a few things. First, please take a few minutes as soon as you receive this email to take a tour of all of the modules on our Panther Learn course page. This will give you a good sense of the course. Second, make sure you purchase the books for the course. Third, complete the 2 assignments. I suggest completing them as soon as you can in case there are any technology issues or questions you may have. Your 2 required assignments are a short paper and a discussion post. Please don't hesitate to email me with any questions or concerns you may have about navigating the course, assignment expectations, acquiring textbooks, or anything else you may need." If you were a student and you received this email, would you have any questions for the instructor?
Maybe.
What might your questions be?
What is the book?
What, wait, what book? What's the book I'm supposed to have?
But we did welcome emails in the old lead program too.
Right?
So I don't see how this is different.
Because you don't have the additional meet and greet where you can answer those questions, right? This is it. So it's got to stand alone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we also have more traditional students who may be taking the class, who don't really understand that things may be due the first day of class, right? What other questions might you have for Dr. Mason?
Why do I have to take this class?
Why do I? Because it's philosophy? Oh yeah, I get that question all the time.
Trying to be polite about it.
What does philosophy have to do with business?
There's no math.
There's plenty of math. We do a whole section on logic.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, cool.
Anybody
Yeah.
in college, they go take classes they don't want to take.
Everybody does, yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
nature of the beast.
Yep.
Yeah, what's the point?
Is that what
Why is this
millennials
valuable
now
to me?
do?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Us
Sure.
learn the application of our finance and econ within the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they told us to
I
make
mean-
us a well-rounded student.
Well-rounded student, sure.
Back in my day,
What's that?
Contemplate.
Nobody asks questions like that. Okay, so aside from the subject matter of philosophy, what are some other kind of nuts and bolts logistics questions about this class that you might have?
How do I turn in assignments?
How do I turn in assignments?
Win.
When are those assignments due?
It wins class. You know.
When's class?
Yeah.
What class is it?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
what's the
emails
paper?
vary depending
What's the
on-
paper?
Yeah, and this
Uh-huh.
discussion topic.
Right? What's the discussion topic? What's the paper? Yeah,
I
it's
think,
a good.
I teach 107.
Mhm.
Sometimes it seems like the first class somebody's taking online. A freshman versus junior, senior, they understand the difference.
Exactly.
So you get the tail of the email.
Sure. Right? And that's why I picked this 109 class, because it's going to be a lot of new students and a lot of freshmen.
First time maybe online for them.
Right? Yep. So every time you compose a welcome email, I want you to sit and think, what if I've never taken an online class before? What if I've never taken an accelerated class before? What would I want to know? Right? And think about, reading this email and feeling confused. Right? I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Right? So I have here my actual welcome email that I sent out to my class. And I don't claim that this is perfect, but it does answer some of those questions. It's better. I think it's probably too long. I'm typically long-winded if you haven't figured that out yet. So I need to find a way to make it more concise. But nonetheless, I think it addresses some of those questions. So I provide the textbooks. I say, you have to purchase these textbooks to complete the first assignment. A lot of students wait until the first day of class to say, do I really need this book? right? So making sure that they have the book. I tell them when the assignments are due, and I link to the ODU bookstore, and that link goes to the screen where you just enter in the semester in your class and you're taken to your textbook. So trying to get them prepared, and I tell them that the syllabus can be found on PantherLearn, that these assignment instructions and rubrics can be found on PantherLearn. So what do I then need to do if I'm directing them to PantherLearn? Make sure they have access to PantherLearn. Make sure that they can find my course. So it's really, really important, the final item on that checklist that you've been given to prepare your PantherLearn class is not only that your course is active, but that the start date is the same day you send your welcome email. Because the start date in PantherLearn by default for this class will be November 7th. Is that going to help my students if they cannot see the course in their list of courses until November 7th? No. So you want to make sure you check that start date, double check that start date, and make sure that you set it for the same day as your welcome email. One last thing I want to mention before we go is I want to show you, this is my PantherLearn page for the Philosophy 109 class that's starting in just a couple of weeks. So on the home page for this course, you'll see right there, I've just copied and pasted my welcome email as a news item, right? I've adjusted some of the language so it's not like go to PantherLearn because they're already there, right? But posting that welcome email there means that if students didn't check their ODU email, but all of a sudden it dawns on them that they have a class starting and they get curious about the class, so they go to PantherLearn, they'll see it and get that same information. All right, and then you want to make sure that you've completed everything on that checklist by that the day you send the welcome email. And if you'll notice, the checklist goes in order of the menu, so it starts with the home page and then content, assignments, grades, email, edit course. The last thing you'll do there is make sure it's active, and the start date is the same day you send your welcome email. Okay. So that's really the goal, is to get you thinking about the different populations of students that you'll have in these courses, where they're coming from, what their perspective is, and how do you adequately communicate the requirements for your course to those students so that they are prepared, or at least as prepared as they can be given what you've conveyed to them. Do you have any quick questions? We'll move on.
You know, one thing else I had to do, since I could go to Pearson, you need to get information about Pearson too.
Yeah,
And for instance, Pearson
sure.
want to know, what is your course ID?
Yep.
It's always been an issue.
Yep, it's on my list. So I'm going to work with Don Hill and Jack Edwards to figure out the best way to connect those.
Connected all of it.
Especially because everything is in their name, so you know there's some complications there that we need to sort out. Yep, that's a good point. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I think you'll have one session left. Where are you going next to?
106.
Yes, 106, just right down here to meet with.